why I'm never gonna shut up about being a single girl who lives alone is because I am the first woman, not only in my family, in my entire lineage, who's able to live alone. My mom was never able to live alone. Her mom was never able to live alone. Her mom was never able to live alone. Multiply that times infinity for the rest of forever till the beginning of humanity, and it actually is that deep.
That's nothing to be proud of, Rusty.
I'm gonna let you in on a little secret there, sister. You should not be bragging about any of that. For starters, flexing about how you meet the bare minimum requirements for being a functioning adult in today's society is a lot like placing third in a chowder chugging contest. I mean, sure, if you want to be proud over the fact that you were the third best soup gulper of that particular contest, then more power to you. But don't expect anybody else, especially your family, to herald you as the pride of the human gene pool, because if anything, you're kind of an embarrassment. Your mother raised you, she fed you and cared for you, kept you safe and whatnot, and in return, your thanks is to tell her that you're better than her because you live alone, have no kids, and more or less severed your family bloodline. And for what exactly? So you can go on the internet and brag about your ability to cut your own stupid rent check. Yeah, that sure is some stunning bravery right there.
If you're a girly who's living right now in your own little apartment, can afford your own bills, can pay your own rent, you don't rely on your family, you don't rely on a man in your life to financially provide for you, you're quite literally breaking generational trauma. I can literally say it started with me. My sisters, everyone after me, I was the first. I was literally the first woman in my entire female lineage to live alone. It is that deep, and that's fucking crazy, and I will not shut up about it.
Maybe you should shut up.
Generational trauma. That's what we're calling it? All right, fine. Let's go there. The fact that your mother and her mother before her lived a traditional feminine lifestyle is somehow on par with people who suffered significantly? Okay, that is just dumb. I mean, you're not a trendsetter. You're just some insufferable broad who's dumb enough to believe that female liberation involves working 40 hours a week for a soulless corporation who couldn't give a damn about you and giving almost half of your paycheck to a government who will send off your money to fund a bunch of proxy wars and spending your nights alone with copious amounts of alcohol. You stay in your small apartment, wasting time mindlessly scrolling through social media and going on dating apps to chat with men you'll never meet and binge watching reality television because you have nothing better to do. Your life is empty and going nowhere. So answer me this, woman. Are you feeling liberated yet?
That's a very good question.
Watching women settle for men who literally don't give a shit about them has to be like one of the most crushing things about being in your 20s. And I think the justifications might even be sadder. You hear a lot of women say like, oh, I want to end up married. I want to have kids. I don't want to end up alone. And our society's obsession and overemphasis on relationships of men as being fulfilling is basically a great way to ensure that you will end up lonely. Marriage is not a cure for loneliness. A relationship with a man is not a cure for loneliness. And I understand that to so many women, it is so important for them to have kids and to become parents. And I can't help but to think, like, at what cost? I wish more women knew how in control of their lives they actually are, especially in the dating stage. People will show you who they are, and you need to just listen to that and you need to trust them.
What in God's holy name are you blathering about?
Since when has society put an emphasis on women finding men? For decades, the modern woman's rallying cry has been, I'm a strong and independent boss bae yas queen, victim of the patriarchy who don't need no man, so I'm gonna start dating women just despite men for not stepping up. The rallying cry needs some work, but the sentiment is there. And when you're not doing that, you claim that because the men you wanted didn't want you, all men are just narcissistic, violent, psychopathic liars. You watch period dramas where men are incompetent buffoons and the women are the empowered leaders, and you're constantly being inundated with drivel about reproductive rights. So what part of society puts so much emphasis on finding a man who will be the father of your children? Sure, we used to have that, but that's only because that's how society worked for eons. But there are enough turds in that particular punch bowl to keep everybody away from each other for all eternity. So now all that's left is to watch the circus as everything crumbles to hell around us, because that is what's been encouraged.
A partner who's never planned a birthday party for you sounds like a partner who's never gonna plan a Mother's Day for you. A partner who's never remembered a single detail about your life is going to be one of those fathers on those like street interviews wondering when their child's birthday is. And I think it's like so sad when you try to talk to these things with other women, especially women who are married, especially older women, and they're going to tell you things like, hey, men just don't love the way that we do. Men just don't get it. Men just don't remember. That stuff's just not important to men. And I just need all women to understand that you are the main character of your life, not him.
That's not my problem. It's yours.
I think we need to take a moment to appreciate how this chick is saying that her man must hold Mother's Day in just as high regard as her own birthday. To her, Mother's Day is so important that her man must plan an entire day of activities around it. However, you can bet dollars to donuts that this broad will not put in even half of the effort for Father's Day, or his birthday, or anything else that involves him. You're forgetting something, sister. You might be the main character in your own life, but you will never be the main character in that man's life. It's his life, not yours. And it's kind of silly to think that you're gonna find a masculine man that thinks like you. That's like trying to find a supercomputer with the power to cause global nuclear conflict, but requires a dial-up modem to do anything. So in other words, war games, except significantly less realistic. And when your desires in a man don't even meet the standards of a Matthew Broderick movie, you know you're in trouble.
Like, honestly, imagine if we tried to explain friendships with women the way that we explain relationships with men. Like, yeah, she forgot my birthday and she decided she wanted to go out with other friends unrelated to me. Didn't even think to invite me out or anything. Told me that it was just a girls' night. But yeah, we're actually gonna move in with each other next week. Like, no, I think I'm actually gonna stay friends with her because she's never raised her voice at me and I think that's really cool. And so many people will try to tell you a man's love is just different. Do you mean it's worse? Because what you're describing is something worse. It's something that you would not accept from a friendship with a woman, from a casual friendship with someone who you're not planning to have kids with, someone you're not planning to move in with. Why would our standards for our life partners not be impeccably high? Why would they not be the highest? Honestly, it's a lot to think about.
Oh, wait, you're serious.
Yeah, woman, we get it already. You were having some casual hookup fun time with a guy who didn't care to remember your birthday and went out with his fellow Chad buddies after he kicked you to the curb. But that's not our fault. That's totally on your standards. You're the main character of your own life. And as the main character, you made the active decision to offer Chadicus Maximus Tyronium your rancid goop trap of unrelenting sorrows in hopes that would be enough to lock him down. I would dare to argue that the men you ignore aren't like that. There are plenty of men out there who would love to try and make you happy. And even though I do appreciate man's attempt to conquer the impossible, you've already convinced yourself that a majority of men out there are trash and incapable of loving you, which just begs the question, even if you met the man who met all of your impeccably high standards, do you even think he would want to meet them after seeing how you act? I would say as the main character in his life, he'd probably run for the hills because his life is more interesting than yours and he doesn't need you to screw that up for him.
You blew it. Capiche?
So I just finished up with a client and
That's why I praise the Lord for prostitutes.
it really made me realize like how risky this job actually is. So I was seeing my regular who I see every week. And usually I see him at a hotel, but this time he was like, oh, I've got a place, do you think you can come out here? And usually I wouldn't do that, like I don't go to people's houses, but I've seen him like so many times, so I was like, okay, I'll make an exception. He also asked me to bring a friend because like his roommate was looking to book a girl, like not together in separate rooms. So I was like, yeah, like I have a friend, I'll get her to come. So me and my friend drive out to this house, like literally in the middle of nowhere. There is like barely any cell service at this point.
You are made of stupid.
Let me see if I can get this straight here. You work in an industry where you regularly swap bodily fluids with men and run the risk of getting and spreading all sorts of diseases, infections, and not to mention the emotional deterioration that comes from your line of work. And it took the plot setup to a low-budget horror movie to make you realize how much risk your job provides. And yet, even though this seemed like a bad idea, you decided not to only risk your safety, but also the safety of your friend in exchange for some cash? Woman, that's not only the setup to a horror movie, that's also the mindset of one of the characters who runs away from the axe-wielding maniac while wearing high heels. You're not even the protagonist of your own horror story, even though your life is just one gigantic horror story. That's if the story was written by a brain-damaged screenwriter who's never seen a slasher flick before, but a horror story nonetheless.
We had to go down this like long, skinny driveway. Like when you started going down, the only thing you could do is like reverse back up. As we go down this driveway, this like car pulls in behind us and starts like tailgating our car. And like at this point I'm freaking out, like I'm thinking the absolute worst. And I just feel so bad because like I put my friend in this situation. So we like pull into the house that we're meant to like go into, and then the car behind us just like keeps going straight and keeps zooming down. Like I don't know what he was doing. I don't know if he was just trying to be an ass. So we pull into this house and then I see my regular guy that I know. And, you know, I'm still so on edge, but thankfully everything turned out to be okay. The guys were both so fine.
Oh, that was the grossest thing I've ever heard in my life. Let's go.
Okay, so you're on edge and you're feeling guilty for putting your friend through this mess, and yet you still decided after all of that to go ahead and dance the syphilis shuffle with the dude because he was fine? Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Why not? You're a modern avenue stroller. Your income will always take priority over the safety of yourself and others. But what's really messed up is that you thought something was off and you had the golden opportunity to leave. The road was cleared up and you could have bolted at any time, but instead you doubled down on the risk. And the reason why you got into that mess was because you allowed yourself to get into that mess, and when things were looking dangerous, you went for it anyway. But I guess it's a good thing that people don't generally accuse you of being smart. That would be a horrendous mistake on their part.
We were there for like less than 40 minutes and then we went home. So this is how much money I made for the hour. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. $2,000 for the hour. He did give me an extra $500 for driving down that long driveway.
Congratulations!
Woman, that is most certainly not a flex. You pretty much jeopardized your safety for $2,000. Now, don't get me wrong, I could always use an extra $2,000, but I don't know. If someone was offering me $2,000 to walk inside of a murder house, I'd probably think twice about it. Not to sound too full of myself or anything, but I honestly like to think that my life is worth more than $2,000 Australian. But let's be honest here, it's not like I'm $2,000 away from total destitution. It's not exactly what I would call life-changing money. I mean, I suppose if I was completely broke and had a $2,000 bounty on my head, I don't know, maybe I would, but at that point, I would literally have nothing to lose. But that's a completely different scenario where my intergalactic space bounty hunting license expires, and that's never going to happen. Unlike you, I am not worthlessly incompetent. And that's gonna do it for today's video, gentlemen and gents. And as always, if you find that my particular brand of comedy is bringing you to the brink of laughter, then why don't you click that like and subscribe button, ring the notification bell, leave a couple of comments, and share this video so we can give the good old-fashioned middle finger to the YouTube algorithm. And that goes double for anybody who's convinced that War Games is one of the best movies around. I'm sorry, but I don't think it's that caliber of a movie. It's most certainly not Demolition High. Thank you so much for checking out the new video, and until next time, peace out, homies.